There's all this love in this room, and Bill, you are a tremendous teacher, and you focus on the scriptures, on the focus of the love. My Christian friends, I've learned from you and others that when I'm approached by people in the community saying, I don't understand this Christian relationship to Israel, aren't they out trying to convert us? I said, no, you don't understand. They're taking the scriptures literally. They feel the scriptures. And what you just said, Bill, is that I understand, because of working with you for all these years, and Jim working with you, is that it's deep within your heart, in our Jewish terms, in your kishkas, that you understand a special relationship to Israel and to Jews. And it's an honor to be here among you and giving my friends who are my Jewish friends a connection to you. And in so doing, Jim, you have an amazing leadership role that you play, running around the world. You go to Israel, it seems like every other month. You're going West Coast, East Coast, all over the place. And I took a bit of an advantage here. I wanted to introduce people to someone who works closely with you, who represents what I understand the future of the Christian Zionist leadership. He's a radio host in the Friends of Israel radio program. One of the pictures.
It doesn't look like me.
Doesn't look like
Looks like me. Steve.
Oh, wait a second. I'm off base here. Okay, hold that. We're going to introduce you later. As Rabbi Grunberg says, it takes a village to raise me. So let me introduce you to another good friend with a warm heart. Steve's been leading COA, one of the premier Zionist connecting organizations, America to Israel, for 23 years now?
Only 16, but it seems like 23.
Okay. No, it's 23 years you've been in journalism, 20 years he was with the Jewish Exponent, the central mouthpiece of the Jewish community in Greater Philadelphia. I knew Steve back then because when I wanted to put releases in for Young Jewish Leadership Concepts, I had to talk to the community editor, or community news editor, which was Steve Feldman. So we've known each other for many, many years. And he has a deep, deep love also in the Kishka's heart for Israel. And he understands Christian Zionists. Matter of fact, he understands so much that he honored Jim Showers was it 2 years ago?
Last year.
It was last year, okay. So that's where Albert and Alan Agri and Mark Millman got the idea of honoring you, Jim. It's because Steve did it first. So in knowing Steve, you have to know his Israel connections, but yes, I have to know something else about him. He is a wild and free guy outside of what he does for Israel. He's traveled all over the country. He's been to all 50 states. And something really, really cool, bottom left-hand corner, he was the manager, I think, of the fan base for the hit band Chicago. So with that, Steve, please come to the podium.
Chris Katolka's opening act. And it's so wonderful that Jim and by extension Diane Showers are being honored, and I don't have to plan the event this time. Congratulations, Jim. You really deserve it. And it is such a pleasure to be among so many people who love Israel. A lot of ZOA members are here today. Many, many Christian Zionist friends. Thank you all for the work that you do, and especially Jim. Jim, you helm really one of the leading Christian Zionist organizations in the world. I dare say the oldest, I'm sure that's true. And the wisest, the most experienced. And there are some Johnny-come-latelys, but you guys were there first. And I thank you. You got Israel in your name even before the State of Israel was called the State of Israel. So it's really remarkable. 10 years before Israel was reestablished, the Friends of Israel was on the scene, looking out for Jewish people, and what would become shortly thereafter the reestablished State of Israel. So I thank you very much. And I've been associated with your group when Bill Sutter was heading it, and you've passed the baton, earned the baton, and done just a wonderful job, and I thank you very much. We're really, truly blessed, those of us who are Jewish Zionists, to have so many Christian Zionist friends. And this is a wonderful event that happens every year in Bucks County to pay tribute to Israel and Zionism. So I'm glad that that is going on, and I'm honored to be a part of it. For all of the work that Jews and Christians do for Israel, there are a couple things that I want to draw our attention to. One, Bill Sutter touched on briefly, which is making sure that current and future generations of Christians be Christian Zionists. There is an effort, as many of you know, maybe all of you know, within some denominations of Christianity to turn Christians away from Israel. So it's urgent that we, Jews and Christians alike, make sure we pay attention to that. It's very serious. And another serious matter that we're not paying enough attention to, and I urge everybody to do that, is what's happening around the world with regard to the persecution of Christians in Arab lands, the destruction of churches. It's something that we all have to address. And while I appreciate what all of you do for Israel as the executive director of ZOA, we all have to devote a little bit of time, carve out a little time from what we do for Israel for those two issues and circumstances, because in the end, it all goes to helping Israel and Zionism anyway. So it's very important that we address those two matters, those very increasing, terrible matters. So I don't want to detract from what is a happy occasion to mention that, but I think it's important to bring that up and be aware of it. ZOA, the organization that I run in Philadelphia, is 120 years old this year. So we're not just... And while I feel some days like I've been there since the founding, that's not the case. Some days are like that, though. No. It's been a labor of love, and there's a lot of labor to do to educate the community, to do advocacy and activism, and to do outreach. So many people think that by being active, let's say on social media, which is the latest, biggest thing, that you've done your activism, and that's really just the beginning. We have to take our activism back into the community, back into the streets if needed. There are so many anti-Israel media outlets, so many anti-Israel politicians. We don't get political at ZOA with regard to partisanship, but I urge you all to be aware of people running for office, ask them questions, see what their outlook and positions are on Israel and the U.S.-Israel relationship. It's important to ask. It's important to get those views that candidates have out in the open, whether it's here in Bucks County or statewide races, federal races. It's really important to be active with that. And I know people here in this community are. We have a lot of events at ZOA. We have quarterly meetings. We have special events. We have a very big special event coming up on June 26th. There's flyers outside on the table as you walked in and as you'll be walking out, I imagine. We're going to be bringing in Frank Luntz. Many of you have seen Frank Luntz on TV when there's been debates. He's going to be discussing American public opinion with regard to Israel and how we can all work to improve it. So it's something everybody in this room I know thinks about, cares about, and we have an opportunity to hear from a real international expert, and there's going to be a reception, a limited number of people get to meet him and speak with him, and then a big main event that's happening in Philadelphia on June 26th. I invite you all to come to that. There's other literature. I leave all kinds of dead trees in my path whenever we have an event. Because there's a lot of literature I bring. So please take it and avail yourself of the information and put it to use. And if you're not a member of ZOA, I know many of you are, but if you're not a member of ZOA, please consider joining our group. We really are the most active pro-Israel organization in the region. We are constantly doing things, whether it's having pro-Israel rallies or even demonstrating at anti-Israel events. There's been a lot in Philadelphia lately as the orchestra was going, and we were out there many times when there was an anti-Israel event. I was standing there sometimes just myself with an American flag and an Israeli flag, just so those SOBs didn't get a free shot to defame Israel. So it's all important, all the work we do, and I especially thank Jim and the Friends of Israel for everything you do every day and throughout the year. Thank you all.
One of the most dedicated Jews integrated Philadelphia is Steve Feldman. Thank you, Steve, for all that you do for Israel, and all you do for the Jewish community. Okay, and you were a great opening act for Chris as well. And one of these days we'll have to hear some stories about Chicago too.
We've got another 10 minutes.
So I gave most of my introduction before, but I didn't talk about the picture down below. Chris is out there as Jim in conferences all over the place. And in 2016, we were carousing around the streets of Washington at the APEC conference, and we met this lovely woman, and Jocelyn is one of the many women who I meet along the path. This one is the wife of Rabbi Shmuley Botek, America's rabbi. So it was a great picture of Chris. I thought it would be something to share with you. Chris is an amazing, amazing guy. I understand that the connection to Kaplan came from what you did for Christian youth going to Israel. So if you want to share part of that story and what you're going to share with us, it's a special honor to introduce you to our community of Christians and Jews together here today.
Hello, everybody. It is very easy for me to stand up here to honor Jim Showers, Dr. Jim Showers. You know, it was great to hear Bill speak, because Bill and Jim have a unique relationship together as they partner together and work together on the administrative end. But I stand in a different position, it makes me easy to honor Jim because he's impacted my life in an amazing way. It'll be 4 years ago that I got a very random phone call in the month of August from Jim. And Jim called me and said, Chris, I was sitting down, thank goodness. He said, how would you like to leave Dallas and move your family up to the Friends of Israel in South Jersey and host our radio program? And I'll tell you something, it was amazing for me to be a part of that moment, because I think Jim sits at a unique time for Christian Zionism, where we have to begin to raise up new leaders for Christian Zionism. And Jim, I am very thankful, because you've changed my life, you've changed my family's life for the better, to be able to continue to preach the message to our Christian friends about the value of Israel in the world today, and also biblically. So thank you, Jim. It's very easy for me to be up here. I'm very comfortable to be able to say thank you for everything that you've not only done for the Christian Zionist community and for the Jewish community, but also for me as well. So thank you. It was more than 10 years ago that I was asked to co-lead a trip called the Origins program. Origins is an acronym that stands for Our Resolve is Giving Israel Never-Ending Support. It's a program for 18 to 28-year-olds. And the program was designed to reach out to the younger generation, and not just to take them on a tour to Israel. We wanted to show them real Israel. We wanted them to come back not just with a passion for seeing the biblical land, that's really important. We wanted them to come back with a passion for the nation of Israel today as well. And we can think of no better way than to volunteer, to become, in Hebrew, a mitnadvim, volunteers. And so more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, we started a volunteer program, and it just so happened to be that a doorway opened up for us to come into Kaplan Medical Center. And it was at Kaplan Medical Center I was able to bring our first group of young adults, the first volunteers to Kaplan Medical Center from the Friends of Israel. There were 5 young men, and I'll tell you what we did. We cleaned toilets, we mopped floors, and we cleaned air conditioning filters. And friends, they needed to be cleaned, okay? And it was a joy to do it. We did it with smiles on our faces. We were excited. And I'll tell you, the Israelis, the moment they see us smile, they know that we're different right away. You know, we're not speaking Hebrew. And so we're in a very random area, too. We're not in Jerusalem. We're not in Haifa. We're in Rehovot, Israel. And so we are in the heartland of Israel. And so when they hear us speaking English, they gravitate to us. And as you know, Israelis lack a thing called tact. So they'll come right up to you and want to know what you're doing here. And you know what? It's from those moments that we were able to invest in Kaplan Medical Center. And that was the beginning of the relationship. Since that day, the Friends of Israel has brought more than 200 volunteers to Israel and invested more than 5,000 hours of community volunteer effort into Kaplan Medical Center, into this community of Rehoboth. But that was just the beginning, because once word got back and it began to grow at the headquarters, and we began to see the value of this relationship with Kaplan. Jim, with his vision and his leadership, didn't want to just stop with our volunteer work. We invest finances and donations from the Christian community right into Kaplan Medical Center as well, through our Israel Relief Fund, which Jim has been spearheading for the past few years, raising more than $1.5 million to invest into the Israeli community. So it's a joy, because I know Annette has been a part of it. I've taken Jim over as well. Jim has done volunteer work over there. It's not easy work. There's a lot of coffee drinking, but we definitely, you can, if you ever get a chance, if you want to see Christian Zionism at work, come by Kaplan Medical Center for either our Hesed program, which is our adult leadership, our adult volunteer program, or our Origins program, because you will see joy in the hearts of Christians as they serve alongside Israelis. You will see joy. Why? Because it's in the heart of a Christian Zionist to have joy toward Israel. Everything that we do as Christian Zionists is directed towards our heart for what the Bible says. Bill couldn't have said it any better. We just read the scriptures and we can't get away from it. We can't deny what the scriptures say. In the Tanakh, and as well in the New Testament, we cannot deny it. That's why we are compelled to do these things. And not just speak, but also act and to give. And you know, Christian Zionism wasn't something that started in 1948. And it didn't start after 1967. And it's not a new phenomenon as well. You know, it was around early on. Do you know that one of Theodore Herzl's, the founder of modern Zionism, you know, one of his dear, dear friends was a Christian Zionist named William Heckler. He was an Anglican pastor. And while he was a chaplain at the embassy for the United Kingdom in Vienna, he came across a book called Der Judenstaat, The Jewish State, by Theodor Herzl. And he read that book while he was in Vienna and said, I've got to meet this man. Because everything he's saying, I agree with as a Christian. This is back during the days of Theodor Herzl. And so they meet with one another, and they create a friendship that can't be broken. And there are a few writings that I have from Theodor Herzl where he talks about William Heckler. And I want you to hear some of these things. He writes this: William Heckler is a likable, sensitive man with a long gray beard of a prophet. He waxed enthusiastic over my solution. He too regards my movement as a prophetic crisis. Heckler declares my movement to be a biblical one. Even though I proceed rationally in all points, he wants me to place my tract in the hands of some German princes. He used to be a tutor of some of the household of the Grand Duke of Baden, and he knows the German Kaiser and thinks he can get me an audience. One of the first interactions that Theodor Herzl had with prominent politicians in Europe was through the friendship that he had with Christian Zionist William Heckler. Now, it didn't work out the way that Herzl wanted it to, but nonetheless, Herzl got his message out. Again, he writes again about Heckler, and he says this: he gives me excellent advice. He says this: he's full of unmistakably goodwill. He's at once clever, mystical, and naive. But his counsel and precepts have been excellent to date. And do you know that the last person that was with Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism, a prophet, a modern prophet, if you will, who predicted the state of Israel 50 years before his death, almost to the date. That it was William Heckler that it was at his side just before he died. His last written words were given to William Heckler. The last known words that we have from Theodore Herzl, the person who literally helped create the state of Israel with a movement. His last words were to a Christian Zionist, and this is what he said. Greet Palestine for me. Tell my Jewish brothers and sisters, greet Palestine for me. I gave my life's blood for my people. Christian Zionism did not start in 1948. It didn't just happen to come out of nowhere recently. It's been around for a long time. Why? Because there have been Christians, a remnant of Christians for a long time that have valued what the Scriptures say. And when you value what the Scriptures say, you can't deny that you, the Jewish people, and us, I believe, the Christian Zionists, as William Heckler said, are on a biblical mission. You know, Herzl was not on a biblical mission. For him, it was secular. He wanted to save his people. He saw it coming. But you know what? God brought Heckler into Herzl's life to remind him of something important. You're on a biblical mission. And you know what? As Christians, we stand alongside our Jewish friends. We stand here with you to remind you you're on a biblical mission. And we love you for it. And we will defend you to the end. We will defend the state of Israel till the end. And we will stand against any form of anti-Zionism or anti-Semitism till the end. And I'm going to tell you. Jim Showers lives within that legacy of Christian Zionism. Because see, he's not just a man of words, he's a man of actions. If you want to see something get done within the Christian Zionist community, watch it what Jim Showers is doing, as he's not only thinking about what's coming in the future, but how he's bringing up the people behind him as well to make sure that that vision continues on. Because as it was said earlier by Rabbi Grunberg, this is a dream. The existence of Israel is a dream, and that dream is not over yet. And we must continue the message. So, Jim, it's very easy to honor you today. Thank you, sir, so much for all that you're doing, not only in the Jewish community, but in the Christian community as well.
Chris, you are amazing. And my Jewish friends, to my friends on the Israel Forum Committee, to Mark and Albert, now you know why I wanted Chris to be with us today. Now also, you know, my friends and friends of Israel are my great educators. They've taught me so much. And you know, I've worked in Jewish community for 4 decades. Chris, it wasn't until the wheels started in motion, and what I've learned from you, Jim and Bill, is that there seems to be a higher hand in things. I've worked in the Jewish world for 4 decades. Most within the Jewish community have never heard of this thing called chaplain, but you made the connection there, and honestly, Bill and Jim, you introduced me to chaplain. I wouldn't have gainful employment now, wasn't it? You guys? So, and Johnson's very happy about that too, right? And it affects me. It affects me in my heart what the roles that you have. And Chris, that you're in there, out there. I'm speechless. Okay. And because of that, because of your connecting me to Kaplan, I happen to ask Rabbi Bloomberg to be on the board, and Max here is on the board, National Board of Kaplan, and Albert Al-Ghazi is on the National Board of Kaplan. 19 people around the country are on the board. And it's part of what your effect has been to get this support within the Jewish community for something that we need to do. So I just want to draw those links. So it's my honor to call back our co-chair. Oh. It takes a village to raise a village. Okay, we have a special guest here. And let me say that when we honor Steve and Mr. Frame here, I think think Sharon Schmidt from Magen David Adom was here, and Bill, when Friend Israel Forum honored you at Brothers of Israel, Sharon Schmidt from Magen David Adom was there. She gives her regards and her thanks to Friends of Israel because she wanted to be here as well, but I think a family matter pulled her away. And Mark and Harriet Levin, central to the story of Bucks County and Israel, their son Michael. They were planning to be here as well, but I think they're with the Consul General of Israel, who is coordinating the largest block party in America with the parade and the Times Square big party tonight. So Consul General Danny Bayan couldn't be here, but he did send a message. So if we can get to that. He was kind enough to host Capital Medical Center, our top docs, in his private residence in New York. And here is Consul General Danny Bayan.
It's my great honor to offer greetings and appreciation on behalf of the State of Israel, the government of Israel, to Jim Showers and the Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry for all the work they do. Actually, I know these efforts firsthand, as last fall I hosted a special reception in my residence in Manhattan for Capital Medical Center CEO Dr. Carlos Guzman and Chief Cardiologist Dr. Kobe George. We learned about the project building the largest high-tech cardiac center in the Middle East and how much Friends of Israel was appreciated and that the volunteer delegation very high point to the doctors, nurses, and other staff with support Israel. Upon arriving in the United States in 2016, actually I traveled to Philadelphia on my second day of the job, meeting community leaders, and since that time the Delaware Valley has been a regular stop both for my staff and for myself. If today was not also the New York Israel 70th anniversary parade, you could have been assured that either I or one of my New York diplomats would have been joining you in person. Allow me now to invite you to join us tonight at 8 p.m. for an unprecedented celebration in Times Square. Jim Shower's leadership has been instrumental in the development of Friends of Israel and the strong bonds that have formed with Kaplan, giving a boost of confidence to doctors, nurses, and Israeli staff, knowing of American Christian support year in, year out for the last 9 years, no matter if rockets were coming from Gaza or not. I would also like to recognize Rabbi George Greenberg, and while I understand you will be leaving shortly for your congregation in Baltimore, with your leadership at both the national and local level, I am sure our path will cross again. On behalf of the State of Israel, on behalf of the government of Israel, on behalf of the people of Israel, I wish to express again my gratitude and my appreciation. Thank you so much.
So at this time, I'd like to invite Albert Magazi to come.
And now it's my time, and I have the privilege and the honor to introduce Jim Showers. I met Jim Showers about 10 years ago. I was down visiting the compound, and I was very, very impressed with the compound. And Bill Sutter was there too. We had lunch together with Alan and Gree. I think Alan is here. And I remember that because I was so impressed with every office I visited in your compound. There was a Morgan David in every office. I couldn't believe it. You know, I thought I was visiting a Christian organization. But all I saw was a Morgan David everywhere. So I was very impressed with that. The other thing is, I'm not going to go through, you have so much introductions already. The only thing I want to say is, I have a lot of interest in the Christian theology, and I understand that you're involved with that. And I think I would love to learn more about that.